The largest battleship ever built is sitting in two broken pieces, 4 kilometers down in the East China Sea. It has been there for over 80 years. More than 3,000 men went down with it, and almost all of them are still inside. Nobody has recovered it. Nobody has seriously tried. And the strange part is, this isn't because nobody's interested. The Imperial Japanese Navy's Yamato is arguably the most famous warship Japan ever built. If money and willpower were the only obstacles, somebody would have found a way by now. So why hasn't anyone gone back for it? The answer isn't one simple reason, it's a stack of them. And once you understand all of them together, you start to realise the Yamato was never coming back up. Not in 1945, and not now. To understand why, you have to start with what the Yamato actually was, because this wasn't an ordinary battleship that happened to sink in the wrong place. This was the single most ambitious warship Japan ever attempted to build, and the entire project only makes sense once you understand the problem Japan was trying to solve. By the 1930s, Japanese naval planners knew they could never outbuild the United States. America had more shipyards, more steel, more industrial capacity, more of everything. If a naval war ever came down to numbers, Japan would lose before a single shot was fired. So Japanese Naval Command decided not to compete on numbers at all. Instead, they would build something so large, so heavily armoured, and so overwhelmingly armed that no number of smaller American battleships could match it, ship for ship. That decision became the Yamato class. Construction began in November 1937 at the Kure Naval Arsenal, and almost everything about the project was treated as a state secret. The dry dock had to be deepened and widened just to fit the hull. Special cranes capable of lifting loads no Japanese shipyard had ever needed to lift before were specially installed. When the hull was launched in August 1940, the Navy strung screens and canopies around the dockyard so that nobody passing by on the water could see what was taking shape inside. Workers who talked about the project faced serious punishment. For most of its construction, even within the Japanese military, very few people outside the program knew the true size of what was being built, and the size was staggering. At full load, the Yamato displaced close to 73,000 tons, heavier than any warship before it or since. It stretched 862 feet from bow to stern. Its main armament was 9 18.1-inch guns mounted in 3 massive turrets, the largest naval guns ever put on a warship anywhere in the world. Each one of those guns could fire a shell weighing over 1,460 kilograms across more than 42 kilometers. Each turret alone weighed close to 2,800 tons, more than some of the destroyers that would later escort the ship into battle. No American or British battleship carried anything close to that kind of firepower. The Yamato was commissioned in December 1941, just days after the attack on Pearl Harbor. And for a long stretch of the war, it served as the flagship of Japan's combined fleet. In June 1942, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto directed the Battle of Midway from the Yamato's bridge, the battle that ended up turning the entire war in the Pacific against Japan. And here's the strange part, the Yamato was there, it just never fired a shot. For most of the war, the ship that was supposed to be Japan's ultimate weapon spent its time moving quietly between naval bases, kept in reserve, considered too valuable and too fuel-hungry to risk in open battle. Japan had built the most powerful battleship in the world, and then largely couldn't afford to use it. The Yamato's only real moment of surface combat came in October 1944, off Samar during the Battle of Leyte Gulf, when its main guns finally fired on enemy ships for the first and only time in the vessel's entire career. By early 1945, that moment was already behind it. Japan's carrier fleet was gone, most of its capital ships were gone. The war, by any honest assessment, was already lost, and the Yamato sat at anchor in Tokyo Harbour, burning through fuel that Japan could no longer easily replace, waiting for orders that had nowhere sensible left to go. Those orders came in April 1945. American forces had landed on Okinawa on April 1st, and when Emperor Hirohito was briefed on the Army's defence plans, he reportedly asked where the Navy was and what it intended to do. Under that pressure, Japanese Naval Command devised Operation Tengo. The plan was about as blunt as military planning gets. The Yamato, along with the light cruiser Yahagi and 8 destroyers, would sail south with only enough fuel for a one-way trip, deliberately beach itself near Okinawa, and use its main guns as fixed coastal artillery against the American invasion force until it ran out of ammunition. Whatever crew remained would then go ashore and keep fighting on land. Everyone involved understood exactly what this mission was. Vice Admiral Seiichi Ito, the officer chosen to lead it, initially refused the order outright, calling it pointless. Captain Tamechi Hara of the Yahagi described it afterward as throwing an egg at a rock. The captains tasked with actually carrying it out weren't even told the full plan until April 5th, just 2 days before departure. And still, every one of them carried it out. The crew weren't given a choice to stay behind, apart from a small group of roughly 80 men who were sick, injured, or too new to the ship, who were ordered off before departure. 67 naval cadets who had arrived on board only 3 days earlier were sent home as well. At 4 p.m. on April 6, 1945, the Yamato and her escorts left Tokuyama. Every man aboard knew there was no plan for the ship to come back. In one small, quiet act of defiance, fuel depot workers at the port secretly loaded the ships with almost all of the remaining fuel they had, far more than the official one-way allocation, even though it likely still wasn't enough for a return trip. American submarines spotted the formation almost immediately as it passed through the Bungo Strait. The contact was reported up the chain to Vice Admiral Mark Mitcher, commanding Task Force 58, the American fast carrier force, which had 15 carriers and close to 900 aircraft at its disposal. Admiral Raymond Spruance briefly weighed sending a line of fast battleships to intercept the Yamato directly in a surface engagement, the kind of battleship against battleship fight naval planners had imagined for decades. In the end, that decision was scrapped. The battleships weren't needed. The aircraft alone would be enough. On the morning of April 7th, American search planes located the Japanese force. Admiral Ito briefly turned the formation west, as if retreating, in what looks now like a final, hopeless attempt to buy time. By late morning, with American aircraft continuously shadowing the ships, the Yamato turned back south toward Okinawa one last time. The attack began just after 12:30. Aircraft from 15 American carriers descended on the Yamato in successive waves. Fighters, dive bombers, torpedo planes, close to 400 aircraft in total. The Yamato had 6 fighters providing air cover. Below decks, Japanese damage control officers made the desperate decision to deliberately flood their own engine and boiler rooms on one side of the ship, trying to correct the listing, at the cost of the hundreds of crew members still trapped inside those compartments. By mid-afternoon, the Yamato had absorbed at least 11 torpedo hits and 6 bomb strikes. The ship was listing heavily, on fire from bow to stern, barely able to move. Then the fires reached the forward ammunition magazines. The explosion that followed sent a mushroom cloud roughly 6 kilometers into the sky, visible to American pilots circling miles away and to observers on the Japanese mainland, more than 200 kilometers off. It registered on seismographs. Of the 3,332 men aboard, 3,055 were killed. Roughly 270 survived. The Yamato never got within 100 miles of Okinawa. The wreck sat undiscovered for 40 years. It was finally located in August 1985 by a Japanese expedition using the submersible Pisces II, lying about 290 kilometers southwest of Kyushu, at a depth of roughly 340 meters, just over 1,100 feet down. What they found wasn't one battleship resting peacefully on the seabed. It was a debris field. The forward section lies on its side, showing clear torpedo damage. The stern section rests upside down, separated from the rest of the ship entirely. The main gun turrets, each weighing close to 3,000 tons, tore free when the hull rolled over during the sinking and now sit scattered across the seafloor on their own. The superstructure lies apart from both sections, in the middle of the wreckage. There is no single, intact hull down there to point at and say, that's the Yamato. There's a debris field that used to be one, so why has nobody gone back for it? The reasons stack on top of each other, and none of them alone fully explains it. But together they do. The first is depth. 340 meters isn't beyond the reach of modern technology. Not the way the Titanic's depth once was, but it's far beyond the range of any conventional salvage operation. This is deep enough that anything you do down there requires specialized deep-sea equipment, remotely operated vehicles, and extraordinarily careful, slow, expensive work. It's significantly deeper than most of the other famous wrecks people talk about raising or exploring. The second is condition. The Yamato wasn't simply sunk in one piece, the way a ship that takes on water and slips under tends to be. The magazine explosion tore the hull apart before it ever reached the bottom. There is no single intact structure to attach cables to and lift. In 2009, a business group in Kuro publicly proposed raising the main gun turrets from the forward section and estimated the cost would run into the billions of yen. Nothing came of it. The technical obstacles were simply too large for the plan to go anywhere. The third reason is what the wreck actually represents, and this is the one that matters most. Over 3,000 men are still down there. In Japan, the Yamato isn't just a famous old warship. The word itself was historically used as a poetic name for Japan, and the ship has come to symbolize something much larger than its specifications. A nation that built its greatest weapon, sent it on a mission it knew would not succeed, and watched the men aboard carry out that order anyway. In 2015, a group of Japanese lawmakers held formal discussions about the feasibility of raising the wreck specifically to recover the remains of the crew. Those discussions never produced any action. The political and emotional weight of disturbing that site is enormous, and nobody involved has been willing to push it forward. And underneath all of that sits one final, simple fact. Even setting aside the politics and the grief, even if Japan decided tomorrow that it wanted to raise the Yamato, no technology that currently exists is capable of lifting roughly 72,000 tons of shattered, scattered steel from over 1,000 feet of water. The Yamato isn't sitting down there fully intact, waiting patiently for someone with enough money and ambition to come and bring it home. It's in pieces, spread across a stretch of seafloor, held together by nothing at all. The largest battleship ever built, carrying the most powerful naval guns ever mounted on a warship, was sent on a mission with only enough fuel to get there, and never reached its destination at all. It has been resting at the bottom of the East China Sea for more than 80 years, broken into pieces, with over 3,000 men still inside it. Nobody has raised it. Given everything standing in the way, depth, the state of the wreck, the politics, the grief, and the technology that simply doesn't exist yet, it's hard to imagine anyone ever will. Now, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, let me know in the comments, and I'll keep making more of these. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and I'll see you next time.